From Hollywood, it's Out of My Mind. Hi, I'm Jay Douglas, and on today's show, we're going to rummage through your closet. We're going to apply the ancient art of do-it-yourself to choosing a lawyer, and we're going to take a look at the social media life of Doughnuts. This is one you may want to get the kids to crowd around the cell phone and listen to. It's business as usual. It's the show about the essential, the non-essential, and the curiously essential things that we pick up as we use technology to bounce around the world. It's all done in about 17 minutes once a week, and you can get a new show every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. Now, I was born a baby boomer, and we're going to talk about things that baby boomers are curious about. But that doesn't mean that if you're not a baby boomer, you can't participate in the program. No, all you have to do is know a baby boomer. And if you don't know a baby boomer, one will be appointed to you at no charge. So that's how the program works, and let's get started by rummaging through your closet. Okay, I know you have one. It's probably somewhere in your closet, but if it's not in your closet, I would look in the attic, or the basement, or that locker in the garage. It's that jar of coins that you've been filling for decades now, and you got to figure it's worth enough to, pay for that car, the renovation of the kitchen, and maybe even your grandchildren's college education.
I don't like being the bearer of bad news.
That's Scott Sutherland of Huntington Rare Coins and Precious Metals in Pasadena, California. And more times than he can count, he's had to explain to people like us that just because the coins we have in our jars or bags or purses are old, it doesn't mean that they're worth anything.
Age does not necessarily mean rarity or value. There's only 5 or 6 rare pennies, a couple of rare dimes, 3 rare dimes, 2 rare quarters, 1 or 2 rare half dollars. But people still look for it. So they've been combing through change for 100+ years looking for these coins. And it's like I tell people when they come in with their collections, you might have a bag of pennies, but your odds of finding a rare penny or a scarce penny is like your odds of buying a winning $1 million lottery ticket.
So if you're sitting there watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and thinking, hey, I'm already there, not exactly the news that you wanted to hear. I think that kitchen renovation is shrinking right before your eyes. Before you rush to the conclusion that all you've done with filling that jar over the years is build something like a 40-year-old paperweight, you might want to look through what you've got. You might not strike it rich, but some of those dimes and quarters might be worth something.
They have value because they have silver in them. Relatively speaking, silver dimes or silver quarters, silver halves are worth a little bit less money than they were 4 years ago when silver was almost $50. But even back then, when it was $50 an ounce for silver, a dime was only worth about $2.
Not exactly lottery ticket territory, but if you have enough coins, at least maybe you'll be able to afford a nice wall hanging in the kitchen. See, the challenge for Scott, and I think for the rest of us, is that most of us get our idea of the value of old coins from some unreliable sources. Remember when your mother said television was bad for you?
It's real hard to explain that when you see something on TV, you have to take into consideration that the guys on TV have to make a profit to pay for that TV time. They're going to sell a dollar or a silver dollar you could come in here and pay $20, $25 for. They're going to sell it for $50, $75 to $100.
And remember when you told your kids or grandkids that the internet was bad for them?
People look on eBay and see, I just saw a 1924 penny that sold for $10. Why do you only want to pay me 2 cents for that? And we have to go back and go, now, did it sell, or were people asking that for it? There's a huge difference between the asking price and the actual real-life selling price. What condition was the coin in? Was the coin graded? Was it a rare date, a rare mint, or was it just a general coin, just a common coin, a common date coin, as we call them?
The important thing Scott wants us to know is we need to have reasonable expectations. He suggests you do a little homework before you recalculate your net worth. Even with its pitfalls, the internet is a good place to start. Scott has some suggestions for interpreting what you find there, and I'll post them in the show notes. Just go to bit.ly/OOMM123. Click on Episode 2 and follow the link to show notes. Scott Sutherland is a numismatist at Huntington Rare Coins and Precious Metals in Pasadena, California. And if you do find a rare coin in your closet, he'd like to be the first to know. Among baby boomers, today's business entrepreneur was yesterday's do-it-yourselfer. We've shifted our focus from home repairs and crafts to turning unfinished basements into rental property or operating consulting businesses from a corner of our kitchens. The helpful instructions we used to get at the local plumbing store or inside the paint-by-numbers box have now moved to the Internet. Gary Blasey is a quintessential do-it-yourselfer, has been all his life. But he says there's one area of business he wouldn't try to do on his own.
If anyone is in a business, like being a landlord or a small business or something like that, I think they should find a lawyer that they trust, that they can use when they need them.
Gary ought to know. He is a lawyer and a former law professor. He says even though there's plenty of do-it-yourself help on the Internet, some legal issues come with built-in problems that don't have one-click answers.
There will arise occasions where you have non-standard, out-of-the-ordinary issues, and there are, complications in, for example, being a landlord in areas like disability law, rent control. These are areas that are pretty difficult for lay people to master. I mean, landlords who are, 100% of their business is being a landlord, they quickly learn how to do all this stuff themselves, but most people will need the occasional help of a lawyer.
Here's the important thing for a do-it-yourselfer like Gary. Needing occasional help doesn't mean you're at the mercy of your lawyer's hourly rate. It's fine to get your hands dirty, too.
A good lawyer will also tell you what you can do yourself. In fact, one of the ways I would choose a lawyer is if that lawyer can help advise you as to the kinds of things that you should do on your own, and when it's essential that you call that lawyer.
And how does that conversation go? Hello, Ms. Hernandez. I plan on doing some of this legal stuff myself. Really? You can have that kind of conversation?
Anything is fair game with a lawyer, in the same way you wouldn't hesitate to ask a plumber a question because he's, my God, the plumber. You should feel the same way about lawyers. If you're paying them, they work for you. So for those few expensive minutes, they are your employee. And if you don't feel like that, then find another lawyer.
The secret, according to Gary, is plain common sense, the same kind of common sense that you used with your other do-it-yourself chores. You just want to get a sense of your limitations.
I do not call a plumber when I need to change a washer in a faucet. I knew how to do that from watching my father do it. I've learned to do some more plumbing things by watching on the Internet. But I also know when, if I turn that wrench, my house might get flooded.
Gary Blasey is a law professor emeritus at UCLA and a practicing attorney. He's advised me to advise you that every situation is different and that these tips are simply guidelines. If you're unsure about what to do in your personal situation, don't do it yourself. Call a lawyer. It's hard being hip these days. In addition to everything we had to know when we were growing up, there's the danger of committing an unpardonable faux pas on social media, such as liking something on Twitter or tweeting something on YouTube, or is it the other way around? I don't know. Fortunately, I know somebody who does. It's Katie Wagner of Katie Wagner Social Media, and she's on the phone right now. Hi, Katie. Thanks for being on the program.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Katie, let's say, I'm eating a donut. How do I tweet that, post that, share that properly?
On Twitter, your post would say, I'm eating a donut, and you would hashtag donut. On Facebook, you would say, I like donuts. On Instagram, here's a vintage photo of my donut. YouTube, here I am right now eating a donut. LinkedIn, my skills include donut eating. Pinterest, here's a donut recipe. And Google+, I'm a Google employee who eats donuts.
That's Katie Wagner, president of Katie Wagner Social Media in Orange County, California, a very creative and funny person and a darn good sport. And now for part 2 of the story of the impending death of AM radio. The problems I found in part 1, the lack of younger listeners, the spurning by sponsors, the noise and static that makes AM signals difficult to hear, they were all ganging up to prompt the broadcast industry and some politicians to question whether we need to keep AM radio on the air. and that's what got my attention. There's something about the AM radio I grew up with that I'm not ready to see vanish. It's more than nostalgia. It's a feeling that AM can do something FM radio and the Internet can't. It's why FCC Commissioner Ajit Pai called AM the core of our national audible culture. I was curious about what, if anything, was being done to save AM. And that meant something had to be done about all the noise that makes AM stations hard to hear in steel buildings, under highway overpasses, in tunnels, and even in some metropolitan areas. As it turns out, that's a problem that does have an immediate solution. And that's through the use of FM translators. They're low-power FM radio stations that rebroadcast an AM station signal into areas where it's hard to hear. Retired broadcaster Dean Sorensen explains.
Now, this solves a lot of problems. It gives AM a little swagger again. It puts them on the FM band where apparently the young people are going. So that seems to be a less violent move, and hopefully one that would work and be affordable.
The nice thing about FM translators is that they don't require everyone to go out and buy new radios, the way some other proposed solutions do. But I was hoping for a solution that saved AM radio, not moved it somewhere else. Holland Cook, a nationally known radio consultant, thinks that's not important. I have to admit, I was a bit surprised to find out one of his AM clients bought a powerful FM station and has no qualms about duplicating what the broadcasting industry calls simulcasting, the AM station's programming on FM.
We are going to stop mentioning the AM frequency on which we will continue to simulcast, but we're going to represent the station to listeners and advertisers as an FM station.
For Cook, the issue is no longer AM or FM. The question is, what content is available, not how it's delivered. If AM stations want to stay in business, they have to rethink the kind of content they can offer.
I work in news, talk, and sports radio, and I'm glad I do, because if they want Taylor Swift, she's already on the phone. They have 1,000 songs on the phone. And I know all that's been said about curation, but we fired most of the DJs who made it special. So compelling programming is still going to be the key, and it is making some of the AMs, including some of the ones I work with, very successful businesses because we're giving them something they just can't get anywhere else.
There's some wonderful irony here. When music programming fled to FM because it sounded better, AM stations were left with news, talk, and sports programs because they didn't need the high fidelity of an FM signal. But those formats are exactly the ones that lend themselves to building and maintaining local communities. There's local high school sports. There's the city council meeting. You don't have to hear those in surround sound stereo. Paul Tinkle, president of Thunderbolt Broadcasting in Martin, Tennessee, has some more examples.
And we do have literally thousands of these small-time, small-market radio broadcasters out there who serve their community with the programs that you're familiar with, the Swap Shop program, the obituaries. You know, there's a gospel music that I can go on Lost Dogs. You call up and wish somebody a happy birthday or talk about what happened down at the police station.
Music's flight to FM opened the door for AM stations to attract listeners with the kind of programming they can't find on FM or their smartphones. And a dedicated local AM station can do things for its listeners that syndicated programs such as Rush Limbaugh and Don Imus can't. AM stations still have the opportunity to connect with their communities. I mean communities defined by age, gender, politics, religion, or ethnicity. It's that community connection that kept my ears glued to the radio when I was growing up.
The salvation for AM radio or FM radio is the content that we have and how relevant that content is to the audience that we serve.
That's Mary Quas, the CEO of NRG Broadcasting. I think she's nailed the solution. She's made me realize that like Ebenezer Scrooge, whose obsession with money led him to overlook the real value of Christmas, my obsession with technology led me to overlook the real value of radio.
It's such a thread in the fabric of our lives. I mean, it's so important.
I now understand why I had such a longing for AM. In the process of building communities, AM created a kind of intimacy, a connection with the people on the air that's hard to describe. It's even harder to duplicate outside your circle of family and friends. When FCC Commissioner Pai called AM the audible core of our national culture, I think what he really meant was community building was at the core. Whether broadcasters choose to build communities on AM, FM, or a combination of both, it's unimportant. It's the connection, the intimacy of AM radio I grew up with that needs to be passed on to future generations, not the glowing tubes or the whistle of static. Translators will give AM radio stations a second chance to fulfill this role. But will the station owners take advantage of it? If they don't, then AM radio will die by its own hand. And if community building dies with it, then any feelings of nostalgia should rightly be replaced by feelings of loss. You know, there's an old radio tradition that you're only as good as your audience. And that's why you are a very important part of the program. I'd like to hear from you with your comments, your suggestions, your ideas for people that we should talk to or topics that we should cover. You can get in touch with us by going to bit.ly/OOMM123. That will take you right to the homepage for the show. From there, you can click on episode 2 and find all sorts of ways of contacting us. And that's going to nail down episode 2 of Out of My Mind. We'll have a brand new show for you next Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern. Thanks for being a part of the program, and we'll talk next week. I'm Jay Douglas. Out of My Mind is produced by Penny Summers and is a production of the Theater of Your Mind Incorporated, Hollywood, California.